Recently, I was given this Atlas Austrian-made S2 switcher by the president of my train club to see if I could figure out what's going on with it. So these are solid models. I've worked on a few of these before. One of them ended up being the locomotive that went with a layout that we gave away in a raffle at the train show. So I was pretty proud of that. But this seems to have an extra plug, and I'm gonna see what that is. Does this have a decoder in it, or what the deal is? Let's crack it open and see what is making this thing tick or not tick or something. So if I remember correctly, there's a clip under the front. You just press on the bottom there, and then the cab also has clips kind of on the side. Probably should do the cab first before trying to get the front. There we go. Okay, cab first. And then front of the S2. You can see it has that clip there. No decoder, and I'm not entirely sure what the heck is going on with this plug. I do know that they want it removed, and this just turned into a standard DC powered, workhorse, and I think that's what we're gonna do. I just gotta go ahead and unwrap this and get those wires out, and we'll solder everything in appropriately. Good to see them use Kapton tape here, so I'm just gonna get under an edge, peel it back. I'm wondering if this plug, there wasn't another either locomotive or freight car or anything that went with this, at least according to them, so I don't know what exactly it could have been. It could have been a slug, it could have been a freight car that was used for extra pickups. I know that's a thing some people do if they're having trouble with connections on these smaller locomotives. You had extra pickups through another freight car that's permanently coupled. I'm not entirely sure, but I know it is going to go away. So that is our... Is it soldered? Appears to be. Okay. Because it looks like the bulb it's got the yellow and the blue from the plug. So I wonder if it went to a DCC decoder in another shell of some sort, and this just pulled it along. Very interesting. But I am going to go ahead and take this out. But you know what? We need to test this first and make sure it actually runs before we go any further. Okay, we just need to know if it moves. And I've got nothing, so I am willing to bet that this was connected to a decoder, because this, I do not believe, has any connections directly from the track to the motor anymore. We're gonna fix that though. We're gonna make it back to full straight DC, and this will go on a DC powered layout for some young fella to enjoy and get into the hobby. Okay, so I found a photo of one of these with the shell off, one of these old Austrian versions, so I can see just exactly how it's wired up, and it's very simple. Each wire from each side of the side frames goes to its corresponding side of this contact strip up top. Very simple, easy to do. Just went ahead and rewired those wires back in. No big deal. And with the base plates off of the trucks, you can see these red gears dry as a bone. There's no grease, there's no oil. Of course, I'm not going to let this thing go without giving it some attention to the drivetrain, so let's get into it. Now that I have these wheels out, what I want to do is polish them up, get rid of some of this grime on the treads here. If you can see, yeah, you can kind of see. We'll add some grease afterwards, but what I want to use to do this, I'm kind of overusing toothpicks and acetone or alcohol to clean wheels that are really grimy. For things that are lightly dirty or have only been run a little bit and need to be, cleaned up a little bit. Paper towel with a little bit of alcohol, perfectly fine, but for things like this gunk, I'm tired of scraping it with toothpicks and cotton swabs. I've moved on to the method of using brass wire wheel brush, and I did pick up some Dremel brand ones, but I think the next time I order some, I'm going to get just a bulk pack from eBay or something, because these are kind of expensive. I think it was 10 bucks for two, and the other thing you want to make sure you have when you're using the Dremel, and these especially, your eye protection, of course. I probably should be wearing long sleeves as well, just to be on the safe side, but, it's probably fine. I've already loosened this up. Take out the carbide cutter bit we had in there, put in your wire brush, tighten it up. Make sure it's nice and secure. Does not have to be super tight. Now, I always picture the Dremel as the tool. This is the tool that's going to cut my fingers off, so I treat it with a lot of respect, especially when I'm working this close with it. And we're just going to clean the wheels around the outside here. Just got to make sure you're being careful. I'm going to put it on a low speed. It also helps if you plug it in. Make sure the speed setting is all the way off when you plug it in too. You don't want any surprises. But we're going to go ahead. All right. Respect the Dremel, and it will respect you. Now, I've already cleaned up some wheels on other locomotives with this brass wire brush, and it's getting kind of dirty itself, so it's probably due to be replaced. I probably won't use it again after this project. But you can already start to see an improvement. There's just one spot that I need to hit, but yeah, that's way better. So do this spinning away from you, and you don't want it facing your face. And the brass shouldn't scratch the wheels. Did a quick inspection, but that's one wheel set done. What I'm going to do before I run this is I am going to take a paper towel or a Q-tip, and I am going to just wipe around it just to make sure there's nothing debris left on the wheels or anything, any loose little particles or anything. But this is what's doing the heavy lifting for this years of grime and dirt. We're going to go ahead and do all of the wheels on this. We're going to put a little bit of grease in here because it's dry as a bone. We'll do the other side, and then maybe oil up the bearing surfaces for the gear towers. One thing I'll mention about these Austrian Atlas S2s, or S4, S2? I don't know, it's one of those. When you undo the bottom plates to get into the gears here, we have these two screws here. When you take these out, don't just try to lift up the entire truck. The truck doesn't come off with the side plate. It is its own separate piece with the contact strips attached. So it's just that bottom piece that comes off. So just be aware of that. You don't want to yank on it thinking it'll come out, but that's where the wires are attached to those connection points there. I need to double check if one of them seems a bit loose, so I'm gonna have to just reseat that, but it should be okay. And this won't move or flop around once the bottom plate has been reinstalled. Okay. We reset these wheels back into their chassis. They can only go one way, so it's kind of hard to mess up. And then what we're going to do is just apply some of the old classic model trains special super lube. And I don't do every gear. I just put it on the axle gears. Just a little bit more than too much, not enough. What does Ron say? I don't remember what Ron says. Too much more than enough is enough. Anywho, yeah, I just do these three, and as the locomotive runs, it will distribute that grease. Easy enough. Just stick the toothpick back in there for now. We'll put the cap back on that in a little bit, but then a little bit of the Labelle 107. This is my go-to for oiling bearings. I'm just gonna do a small drop where these axles touch the truck frames. Easy enough. Then we just drop in the bottom plate. The side frames have these pins that will go into holes here on the side. Easy enough. Sometimes it snaps, that's fine. And then we just put these screws back in. So while I have it in front of me, I'm gonna do a drop right here at the end of this gear tower, a drop at the end of this gear tower. Honestly, if I was being really thorough, I'd take these covers off, but I think for what we're doing, it's probably fine. And you just kind of have to, there we go. If this thing was covered in carpet fiber or something like that, then I would probably do a more extensive disassembly, but for the most part, it seems really clean. It should be a fine runner. So I'm gonna go ahead and throw it up on a test track and see how she performs. Okay, so we have our little test track here. It's two pieces of Bachmann Easy Track, easy enough. And then we have our Tech 2 Railmaster 2400 here, already wired up. I've got it some alligator clips. This is how I typically have it set up. They're really tightly screwed into the terminals on the back here, so they ain't going anywhere. I also want to mention the track here is usually kind of gross, and I need to clean it up a little bit more frequently. The way I prefer to clean track in general is a piece of softwood balsa or something like that, just a block, and then I just kind of run it along the tracks. It doesn't damage the rails, doesn't cause any micro abrasions. And then sometimes I'll also use something like this, a Mars eraser, an artist eraser, and you just kind of erase the rails. That's all you're doing. And if you see any bits of rubber that have come off, a brush, a foam brush, or any sort of soft bristle brush will brush away any bits of the rubber from the eraser. But I find this helps with really stubborn dirt. But those are two options when I don't really want to deal with chemicals, or I just want to get a small bit cleaned up so I can test a locomotive. And in fact, let's go ahead and test it now. We have the pulse mode off, so it's just the straight DC. We'll test it both ways just to see how it goes, but let's turn up the motor and see how she performs. It is going the wrong way, so let's just go. Now that's really nice. For a little switcher like this. Oh man, now it's off the screen. Let me pull it back. Let's try the pulse mode on and just see if that improves the performance at those slow speeds. It doesn't really need it, I'll say that much. Oh, wrong direction again. Man, it's about 5 seconds per tie. That is quite the creep speed. It's also nice and quiet. Back the other way. I think this is going to make a very nice locomotive. Very excited to see this perform like this. And the light does work up front, so that's nice. Usually when I'm working on models like this, if it has an old bulb like that and I'm just trying to get it running, I don't typically worry about the bulbs or the lights or anything like that. I'm just trying to get the motor to turn over, and this one has performed spectacularly. So what we're going to do next, I'm just going to pop the cab and the hood back on. Let me reset some of these stanchions. They're a little bent, but just slides on. This one's a little loose, but honestly, you can pick it up by the cab, it ain't going anywhere. And let's just reseat this stanchion into where the stanchion lives. This one just kind of floats, which I'm not a fan of, but there you have it. This looks like it was custom lettered for a Rock Island. These decals do not look factory or anything like that, but it's a cool little locomotive, cool little model. I like the Austrian Atlases. I think they're really nice for the most part. You can get them pretty cheap, but that's going to do it for this one. If you've enjoyed the content, please consider subscribing. I know this little switcher would appreciate it if you did. Thank you so much for watching, and I will see you in the next one.